If you manage a team, you have to try money. Money.com is a platform to track everything your team is doing. We use it for marketing, product development, HR, creative production. I love Monday.com because it's totally customizable, and that's something I couldn't find in any other management tool. I can choose what information I want to track. Project owners, statuses, deadlines, which means more time for actual work. I tried managing everything we were doing with spreadsheets. It wasn't my thing. Now we have a tool that's easy to use. It's given us the confidence to take on more complex projects. There's so much you can do. Filter through data, get breakdowns of information, and see highlights from across departments. It gives a sense of everything falling into place. Seriously, if you manage a team, you need to use Monday.com.
All right, so we're going to give this thing a try and see how it works. I think what I'm going to do here is open up a Zoom, and we'll just sit down and screw around with this a little bit. Give me just a second and I'll go get that Zoom opened up. We're having a look at the moon tonight. One of the problems that we're running into is that we've got a really high wind going right now, and that's causing the moon to kind of wiggle back and forth, and that's, you know, just not a really good sight. You know, not good seeing, they call that. But we'll see how it goes. What's the worst that can happen? We'll sit here and have a nice chat next to the telescope, maybe look, try and hit something. Computer's acting up a little slow tonight, but we'll see what we have. Here we go with a link. Guys, feel free to join if you'd like. We'll see if we can find something here. Yeah, I'll adjust the exposure just a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. It's a little green too, as you can see, which isn't good, but let's see if we can move that over just a little bit. The thing about these controls is they generally tend to work opposite from what you would think they would. A little bit better. Let me play with it just for another second. Yeah, it's a little better color. I like that a little bit more. Well, guys, hop in the Zoom meeting. Come join me. And we'll see what we can do here today. Yeah, it is a tad too bright. Let's go ahead and see if we can drop that down just a hair more. Well, I think that this is about the best that we're going to do with the moon tonight. So let's go see what we can find out with it. Just have a real quick look. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and put this over on the main channel real fast. Let me get Google Earth up first. There we go. We'll get that up. And then I'm going to go put this over on the main page real quick. Just an announcement of it. Guys, the link to the Zoom is right there. Go ahead and hop in. Let's just go ahead and do this live. Hey, Joe. Give me a second. We'll have this all set for you. How you doing, my man? Give me a second. I'll get everything set up so that we can hear you. I can hear you now, but I don't think the audience can. So give me a second. We got somebody else coming in too. Robert Henry. Welcome, my friend. I'm going to go see what I can do about putting this out on the channel. Robert, you got to hit your mute button. You've got your mute on right now, and that's not working too well. So let's go see what we have here. Joe, you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah, I can't hear you. Not yet. Give me just a second. I'm going to turn on these AirPods. I should be able to monitor it with that.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
Pretty sure my mic's on.
That doesn't want to do it. That's what the problem is.
I hear you, Joe.
That's good. I'm glad someone can hear me.
I don't know why Bob doesn't hear you.
I don't know.
Give me a couple minutes just putting this back over onto the big screen there.
I like the shot of the moon.
Let's get my ugly mug off of here. That's not adding anything to it.
Looks like you have a nice fire going there, Bob.
Looks like my super chat's not on for some reason. Let me see if I can figure out what's going on with that.
Okay.
Should be. We're just going to try and get a couple of shots of the moon tonight. Maybe see if there's anything else that we can get a hold of. I've got a feeling, you see how much the moon's dancing around. That's due to we have really high winds right now.
Looks like you have your mic off, Robert.
Yeah, for some reason it's not letting me put super chats on.
Yeah, I'm muting every now and then because I'm actually in the hospital with my son.
Oh,
So
hope it's nothing serious.
he's recovering. He's hopefully be out soon.
Well, that's good.
Well, this might do it. Give me a second to get this thing set up. Just enjoy the moon there real quick. I'll be with you in a second.
Yeah, I'm not too sure Bob could hear us.
No, I don't think he can. My mom was in the hospital about 3 weeks ago. She's 91.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so she that was a mess.
I bet so. With all the COVID stuff going on.
Yeah, she could only have one person in a day, and she had a urinary tract infection. She's out. She's doing fine. She's back to her pain in the ass self.
Well, that's good. Awesome.
Yeah, she gets pretty ornery. In 91, you can say whatever the hell you want to say. Doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, well, you earned it, but you earned it at that point.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. Now, my son's actually waiting for a heart transplant, and he just got a
Oh wow.
stomach bug. So normally I'd be out there with the telescope also, but I'm actually in town now. So.
Well, my son has he's a chemist, but he has a nice telescope, and he's gotten some nice pictures over the years.
Well, let me see if that worked.
Does he post them anywhere?
No, right now he's in.
I still don't see super chats on there yet. Give me a second.
Right now he's doing what?
He's more into fireworks.
Oh.
I had to go turn them on or something or other. The channel got monetized a while ago, but it'd be nice to be able to have super chats on it. And I didn't realize that I couldn't do those here, so I had to go turn them on real quick.
Yeah, usually
I'm still not hearing Joe over here. Let's go see why that is.
I have a YouTube channel that I post my stuff on.
I think he has one that's private. My other son, a musician, has a YouTube channel. So he puts up he's got an album coming out next year.
Hey, Robert, you hear me?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I hear you, Bob.
Okay, great. And we got Joe in here too now.
Yep. Robert and I have been having a conversation.
Yeah, just talking amongst yourselves. I've been turning on super chats and doing all sorts of cool things here. Let's go see if anybody out there can hear us.
Looks like you have a nice fire there behind you, Bob.
Oh yeah. That's one of the things that I like about being down here in the winter. You know, the closet upstairs that I used to do all my videos in, it was very tiny, it was very hot, there was no ventilation up there. And, you know, it was just miserable. You get down here in the winter, get the fireplace out there, I got my telescope out in the yard, I can run out and get it. Everything's hooked up over cabling right now. And it makes it a lot easier, you know? Just a lot nicer down here. The only problem is I get some stray sound. I'm going to go turn this TV off here in the other room. My wife's gone to bed, so nobody's watching it right now. It's just making noise. I'm trying to get this stream all set up so it's working really nice. The telescope's dialed right in. The only problem that we're running into tonight is that there is just a tremendous wind going out there. You see how bad that moon's jumping around. Looks like we got a cloud going over it. Just give it a second.
Yeah, we had horrible weather here yesterday.
We have awful weather here just pretty much all the time. You know, during the summer, I can get the telescope out almost every night. But during the winter, I've got maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, it's a clear night. And tonight, you know, I was out a few days ago on the last clear night, and it just really was rough because we've got this full moon out here, and I can't really get any good color on any of the nebulae or anything, which is kind of a drag. Looks like it's settling down a little bit now. That's good.
Have you tried any filters, Bob?
Yeah, I've got a light pollution filter on it right now, which is why you get that little bit of green.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to filter it out a little bit. But, I mean, look at the distortion that you're getting on this thing.
Yeah.
I don't like that, but, you know, what are you going to do?
You can, one that I've been using is a L-enhanced filter. It's a multi-band, narrow-band filter.
You know, I was going to get a hydrogen and a hydrogen-oxygen filter just to see how that worked. And thinking maybe that might take out some of this light pollution. And then the problem is everything goes into black and white. Isn't that the case?
No, it actually has like the L enhanced actually has 3 different band passes in 3 different color bands, and you do get color out of it.
All right.
Your reds will be a lot deeper, but you need a much longer exposure to get it.
Yeah, I heard about the longer exposure. That I can deal with.
You get good color, Bob, on Jupiter?
Yeah, I get decent color on it. Okay, so the guests, can you hear the guests as well? I see they hear me pretty well, but they're having a little trouble hearing the guest. And my phone knocked my phone knocked my AirPods off real quick, so I've got to sit down and see what I can do to get those back on.
I've been getting a few clear nights. Usually after the hurricanes pass, I get like 2 clear nights in a row. And then a few weeks later, another hurricane passes, I get another couple of clear nights.
Mm-hmm.
Down in Florida?
Louisiana.
Oh. Close enough.
Are you guys getting echoes on the, are you guys getting echoes out there with the guests?
Broke up, I didn't hear.
I'm checking in the chat to see if they're getting echoes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's that. There's the problem that I'm running into. There we are. Let's make that a little smaller. So I've got 2 things up here. The first thing that I have is I've got my live image. That's the wavy one on the left, obviously, and then on the right is Google Moon, so we can use that to identify a few things. All right, Chris. So you can hear the folks over on the Zoom call. I'm thinking that I've got to put this thing out. I'm thinking that I've got to put this thing out on multi output in order for me to hear it. All right, guys, in the chat, say something. Let me see if I can hear you guys.
In the chat? You mean?
No, it's not coming through.
How can I get back into YouTube without disconnecting, Bob?
Okay, guys in the chat, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, it's not coming through.
You've had some pretty bad weather down there, Robert.
Yeah, where are you located?
South Louisiana.
Come on.
We had that storm here and came up the East Coast yesterday, and I'm outside of Philly. And man, did it rain! Holy mackerel! Jeez.
The last couple of storms, we didn't get a whole lot of rain. It was mainly wind.
No, we must have had 4 or 5 inches of rain yesterday. I could have taken a boat out of my backyard yesterday. There's so much standing water.
The first storm we did that. I could actually float my kayak in the backyard. We had probably about 3.5 feet of water in the backyard.
Wow. I drowned a lot of deer if we had that much water. But after Hurricane,
several of my neighbors have been out of power for 6 weeks.
Wow.
All right, well, so I think that we've got everybody hooked up to sound now, and we should be evened out here a little bit.
Okie dokie.
You guys in the chat here, the guys in the Zoom call. We've got Joe and Robert out there. Joe's been on many times with me before on these live streams, giving me some good advice with them. I don't think I've met Robert before, though.
I go by IB Hunter, Bob.
All right. So we got the moon here. Let's go find out what happened to our Google Pro. There we are. So let's have a look at a couple of things over here. So here's kind of what we're looking at. So here's Tycho here, Tycho here, Copernicus. I think there's Archimedes up here, Archimedes. And of course, this is Aristarchus and Aristarchus. Let's have a look at some of these C's here. Just kind of get to it a little bit easier. I apologize for the distortion in the moon out there. That's caused by the high winds, and that's interfering with the tracking of the telescope. It's also causing a lot of distortions in the atmosphere. The other thing that we might want to do is we might want to drop down the exposure on that moon a little bit, make it just a hair darker so it's not quite as glary. Now, you guys have heard me talk about the rabbit and the moon before. So here are the bunny ears right here. This is the Sea of Fertility and the Sea of Nectar. This, the top of the head, is the Sea of Tranquility. The snout of the rabbit, that's the Sea of Serenity. Got the Oceans of Storm out here in the body. And then you got the little bunny tail down here. And this is one way that we can tell. It's a real nice way to identify the seas on the moon. Let's bring that over a little. Of course, that decided to move over on me a little bit now. Give me just a second and I'll bring that over some. Yeah, it went the wrong way. Bring it down here because it'll kind of drift across. It'll drift across the frame with this. There we go. Come on. Okay. Another sea that we have here is the Sea of Crisis. Kind of looks like a little thought bubble that the rabbit has. Hey, well, good news. Super Chat's working, and I got my first Super Chat on the channel from Daniel here. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've never gotten a Super Chat before. And that's because I had some trouble getting the Super Chat to come on. But now we have it.
On this channel, Bob, or your other channel?
This is my secondary channel. This is a little bit more serious on this side. The other one I primarily do flat Earth. And I always, you know, that's kind of my, yeah, I gotta kind of do that because somebody's got to say something about it. But this is the channel here that I'm going to try and do home science for people, because a lot of people that do home schooling don't have a lot of background in the sciences. Yeah, everything's working fine now.
Yeah, it's a fine picture of the moon.
I'm going to go ahead and copy this link and put this out in the chat in case anybody else wants to come in. Yeah, Chris, the mix is coming out a little bit better right now. I think, yeah, they're not talking a whole lot. That's why you don't see them or you don't hear them too much. But the levels are looking a lot better.
I'm a good talker, Bob. I used to do it for a living. I can talk all night long if you want me to.
There you go. Yeah, you guys are you're a little bit low on that end. Let me see if I can adjust that a hair. I'm going to turn these speakers. I'm going to turn these speakers up a little bit. See if I can get a little more sound out of you guys. That's a little better.
What kind of light pollution do you get at where you are?
I've got I would say probably class 3 to 4 skies here. I live in a small town in northern Michigan, so we have some light pollution. I can go a little bit north and get into solid 2-3s, and you know, I can get those within about 20 miles. But when I'm up in the upper peninsula, I've got really nice skies up there, class 2 or better. you know, I'm up by Iron Mountain, and there's some spots just north of town. There's a couple of big fields that I found up there that are really nice. And I've got the batteries and such to run the telescopes and the cameras and everything remotely. I obviously won't have any internet connection and can't stream. But that's really the best that I can do up there. All right. So that's the moon. It's a really crappy image of the moon because it's running around a lot. Let's go see if we can find something a little bit different to look at here too, just to give it a try. So we're going to go down here to Stellarium. We got a couple of targets over here by the moon. Let's go see if we can identify Andromeda here. See if I can get a lock on Andromeda and maybe bring that up a little bit. I did some live streaming on that the other day. That seemed to work out pretty well. Unfortunately, yes, my telescope's kind of in a really sheltered area right now because I'm trying to get it out of the wind and stabilize that image. So I have very limited views. I may be able to hit some stuff over here in the north by Ursa Major. We've got a couple of galaxies out there that we may be able to pull in. Let's see if we can get Andromeda. If we can't get Andromeda, there's no point in really looking for the smaller ones. Yeah, Daniel, I'll be around probably... It's 10:26 right now, my time. If you're talking 11 p.m. my time, oh, I'll definitely be on. I'll definitely be on. So let's go see where we are here. This is kind of my procedure. What I do is I've got the telescope linked into Stellarium right here. I had it slew over to Andromeda. Now I'm going to go on over here. Well, first we have to turn off SharpCap cameras. Then I'm going to go connect that same camera, which is the ZWO-294MC. This is the one that's not cooled.
Exposure started.
We'll go ahead and get a shot at where the camera's pointing right now. Well, actually, we found Andromeda right there. That's not too bad. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and solve that image and just move it over here. See, these stars are not really nice points of light like I like them.
Image solved.
So now it's solved the image. And you can see right now where we're looking versus where Andromeda is. See how we're just a hair off? We want to do a little bit better than that. So we'll bring that over just a hair. Now it's zeroed right in. We'll go back out here. This is SharpCap, which is the photo program. I'm going to go ahead and turn my ZWO-294 camera on. Put that to auto while it's starting up. Now we got a couple of settings that we have to do over here because we're going to be doing long images. We need to go from RAW 8 to RAW 16. We're also going to get just a targeting shot. We'll do an 8-second exposure. So you can see where it's timing down or counting down right here. Now for you guys that don't know what a histogram is, here's the data that we're seeing on the image, this little curve down here. And here's the distribution of the image. So you see it's not really centered. If we go like that, you see how it brings that right over? And there's Andromeda right in the center. Now, if we do a little bit longer image, since now we know This bad boy is working. Let's give it a 30-second image and see what it looks like. See how much movement we're getting. And while that's taking, we're going to go over here to what we call PhD guiding. This is push here dummy 2. Let's connect up our cameras. See, this is the ZW120 camera that's on my guide scope. This is my computerized telescope mount, and it's a Exos2-PMC Explore Scientific Scope. All right. So here's the raw image through my guide scope. What we're going to do is we're going to select a star, and it wants to use that one. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Let's go ahead and hit some guiding on that. Now we'll see if it starts guiding. What guiding does is it'll lock that star into this crosshair and hold the telescope right on it. It'll make fine adjustments to the mount in addition to the normal movements of the mount and stabilize the image a little bit more. So here's a 30-second exposure on this. You're starting to see some of those dust lanes come out, but we are getting a little bit of blurring. Let's go see if these stars round up. See, they're a little bit rounder, and now you're starting to see a little bit more detail in here. A little bit more right there.
Hey Bob,
Now one thing that we might be able to do, Andromeda is M31, Messner 31. It's called the Andromeda Galaxy. Let's see maybe if we can do a live stack on this and start getting some decent images on this. I'll tell you what, before we do that, let's go ahead and shut that off. We're going to do one more thing. On SharpCap, there's a couple of really neat features. You got some nice tools. You can do a polar alignment with it. You can analyze your camera sensor, but you have to do that on your own before you really are out here observing. And I'll show you what we're going to use that for. And then, you know, it's got some focusing tools on it, etc. Let's go to this histogram real quick. Since I've already gotten my sensor set up, I'm going to go ahead and point that camera over there, and it's going to look at some different exposures and different gain settings, etc., and find out what the optimum exposure and gain setting is going to be for this image of Andromeda. That looks like 110 up there, by the way. M110, that's another galaxy. Andromeda is the farthest object that you can see with your naked eye. It's 2.5 million light years away. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait until this comes up with a different exposure. Right now it's saying it's a 1/10 of a second exposure. That was for the moon. It's not for Andromeda. It's going to automatically calculate the best one, and that'll change here in a minute, and then we'll be able to apply the settings to that, to our images. And see what happens. Joe, you still out there?
I'm here, Bob.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose my audios.
No, but I have my second iPad out so I can watch what you're doing with the telescope.
All right. You guys in the chat hear me okay? Now you see now it says a 9-second exposure will be optimal, and it wants me to take 400 exposures, and it's got a gain of 121. So we'll go ahead and apply that. That's what we're getting right now. I don't know if I particularly care for that. Got nice blackness out here, but we're not getting a lot of good detail. Let's go ahead and try a live stack and see what happens. Now, when you stack an image, what it does is it takes a series of pictures. And this one here, it's going to be taking 9-second exposures. It wants to take 400 of them. And then what it's going to do is it's going to line up the stars in those exposures, and it'll stack them one on top of the other. And the end result is that you'll get, noise will be kind of averaged out, and you'll get a much sharper picture as the stack goes on. Now we'll see the data here after about 2 exposures, and then we can actually make some adjustments. So our data should be coming up at the end of this exposure right here. Okay, so here's our data. We're going to do a couple of things. First, that's a standard curve for the image. If we want to specialize it and make it work for this one, we can balance our colors a little bit better. So you see how they're starting to line up on top of each other? And then we can actually adjust this curve so that we get better exposure in our data here. Well, that's not good. Yeah, I don't like that at all. Let's see if we can get a little better exposure here. We'll try that again. See, these are kind of streaky. That's not doing it. All right, now there's more than one way to skin a cat here. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this stack for a little while.
Bob, do you use a dual shield?
We're going to use something called Deep Sky Stacker, and we're going to do it live. So we'll see whether or not maybe we can get some decent images of Andromeda here. We're kind of struggling to image Andromeda. See, even with guiding, look at the guide on this is just horrendous. It's just running all over the place. See if we can do this again.
Hey Bob, do you use a view shield?
So I cleared that calibration data. I did that because the scope was rotated a little bit and it may not be tracking the same way that it was earlier. So I'm going to have it. It's gonna redo its calibration data. That's what it's talking about here with west step. So it'll do east, west, north, south steps, and then it'll do backlash. It'll do that in the background while we're looking at this thing. See if we can get a little better tracking on this and get a little better. I want to get a little better tracking on it and get a better image out of this.
Looked like you were getting some blur in some of those images.
Yeah, the wind is just knocking it all over the place.
Hey Joe, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, you guys are awful quiet out there. That's probably I've got your volume turned up quite a bit.
I'm wondering if Bob has a dew shield on, if it's catching some wind.
You see how these stars are streaked a little bit?
Yeah.
That's why we're not getting really sharp images here. You can see this one dust lane right here. That's probably M110 right there. This is gonna do stupid things though until it quits calibrating. So we'll give it a couple of minutes. I'll just leave that up. See, it's still adjusting. I'll go over here and have a look in the chat.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of blur in that image.
Yeah, I'm not happy with it. Right now it's doing the adjustment. So it's going to have little jumps in the image, but once it settles into a new lock, see, you're still doing the east and west steps here. When it sets into the lock, we should get rid of some of these streaks and we'll get a little more pinpoint stars. Yeah, I'm doing my best to try and, I got the scope in a sheltered area, but the wind out there is just kind of ripping along over 10 miles an hour. That's making it a little difficult to deal with.
You ever give any thought to like building a little observatory out there?
Yeah, I have. I have given some thought to it. I'd have to take a tree down, which is kind of ironic to take a tree down for science. But the problem with building the observatory here is that I'm in town and I'm going to have a relatively brightly lit sky. if I was going to actually put the money into an observatory, I think I'd rather have it in a place that's a little darker, you know? But given the fact I can control this thing over the internet, you know, I can control it anywhere I've got an internet connection. So the telescope doesn't physically need to be here, but you know, there are always these stupid little adjustments that you have to do. You got to take a batten off filter out there, or a batten off mask out, and adjust the focus. Got to make sure the dew heater's working.
Hey, with all those satellites SpaceX is putting up there, you're going to be able to get internet anywhere before too long.
Yeah, wait, Dave. God, it looks like there's something coming across. Maybe that's the mothership.
It's coming to take us away.
It's coming to take us away. Hopefully it's not near a comet. I want to go see what that thing's looking at.
It looks like the side of a house.
Yeah, it does. Don't let the UFO people know.
Well, gents, that's not going to work because that's my house. And as you see, it's starting to come across. Andromeda's coming up over the eaves of the house. So we're going to have a look and see if we can find another target. Let me see what guiding's doing on this now. It's still working. I'm going to have to give it a minute. Once this guiding calibration is set up, I'm going to go ahead and move it. Let's go find another nice target.
Well, Bob, I think you just proved the Earth. I think you just proved the Earth is rotating.
Well, yeah. You darn right it is.
15 degrees an hour.
15 degrees per hour. So
Thanks,
that's
Bob.
getting a little high in the sky and is getting caught in my, it's getting caught in my roof. The moon's messing up everything over here. These are actually what I wanted to look at today. So there's Bode's Galaxy and the Pinwheel Galaxy are two nice little targets I'd like to have a look at. So as soon as this thing's done, it needs a couple more minutes just to clear this thing here up. And as soon as that's done, we're going to go over and have a look at Bode's Galaxy and see if we can catch it. Fortunately, our guide star's out here. So we're going to see if we're going to make this. But this is my house coming in here, unfortunately. I've got it set up pretty close to the door to try and block the wind with it. And that's why I'm running into my eave here. But I should have a pretty good view of Bode's. And it's guiding now. Notice it's guiding a little bit better. See? That's guiding a whole lot better than it was. But we're going to stop that for right now. We're going to go on over here to Bode's. See if we can get an image of Bode's Galaxy. Now there's two of them there. There's Bode's Galaxy. Anybody else know the other galaxy that's right next to it that's real easy to see? Stick it in the chat if you do. We don't have any winners in the chat yet. So while we're letting that settle, let's go ahead and have a look real quick. and see what we want to see. So here's Bode's, and there's the cigar galaxy right next to it. So we're going to go on out here, Astrophotography Tool again.
Weeks ago.
What?
You imaged the cigar galaxy a few weeks ago, I think.
Yep.
I was watching.
But I'm a lot better at it now.
Exposure finished.
I'm wondering whether or not we're going to have a decent enough exposure that we're going to be able to see anything on it. Maybe.
I have a
It's
lot
definitely
of
not Andromeda because there's no house.
I have one area of the sky that's light polluted, and it's right. Bode's galaxy is right in the middle of all that light pollution.
Yep. I can see, I have a good view to the north, and I have a good view to the east. I can't see to the south at all, which is a real, that's where all the fun stuff is in the south, you know? I'd really like to go out and get Saturn and Jupiter, but we'll see what happens. So it's trying to solve this and see what we're looking at.
There's supposed to be a conjunction in a few weeks.
Yep. Should be able to get Jupiter and Saturn in the same eyepiece, or the same image. So you'll have Jupiter and then you'll have Saturn.
It'd be hard to get the exposures right, though.
Yeah. I haven't had much luck with planetary. You know, it's a 4-inch refractor. The one that I have for planetary is a 10-inch SCT. But the problem is it's on a Pride of the 90s LX mount that's just basically a clockwork mount.
Should be good enough, though.
It's, you know, it's good for a certain number of seconds exposure, but once you start doing high exposures with it, it really just doesn't work.
Should work great for planetary, though.
Yeah. Because those are generally pretty short exposures. The other problem that you run into is when you try and focus the thing, the image jumps. I get a lot of image shift.
Oh yeah.
With it.
That's the SCT.
Yeah, that's the SCT. Now,
that's the mirror in the back.
Yeah, it's just a mechanical factor on it. The only way to get over it is you need to combine. What?
You can have a external focuser on your tube that actually moves your eyepiece or your camera in and out. And
yeah, that's the only way that I can think of to
right.
do it. You get it close with the main focus, and then you have an external focuser for the fine focus once you get the image right where you want it, but it's a little blurry. If you can use that external focuser and maybe get a little better shot with it.
Yeah, that way the image doesn't shift. Mine, when I have a Barlow inside, the image completely leaves the frame.
Yep. I've been having some problems with Barlows. I've got a 2-time Barlow, and I've got a 5-time Barlow that are both aftermarket and really nice things. I'm just having a lot of trouble with them because I can't get the back focus on them. I've got to get some extensions and such. I'd also like to do a little bit more work with my my Canon Rebel SL1 camera. I've got the mounts for that, and it's a better camera than either of these, although this one that I'm using is actually pretty good.
I do almost all of my deep sky with a DSLR.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure that that's Bode's right there, but for some reason this is not giving me a good solve. Let me see if I can do a little better with that. The problem with doing solves is you got to make sure that your focal length is right, and this is a 660 millimeter focal length. The sensor data is correct. We got a 4-second exposure here. Let's give it an 8-second exposure and see if I can get a little bit better.
Exposure started.
See if I can get a little better shot for the thing to plate solve.
Exposure finished.
I'm not thinking that that's looking any better. Let's try it again. Just kind of restart that little program.
Yeah, you still have some
Camera
blur.
connected. Telescope connected. Exposure started. Exposure finished.
That doesn't look anything like the other one. I'm kind of wondering whether or not maybe I had a, that was just a bad shot. I'd love to get an external focuser for this, but it's going to take a little while to do that. Those things are $300-400.
Image
Aha!
solved.
So it's already solved it. Good. Let's see where we are. See, we're up here. That's why we don't see it. Let's go ahead and bring it down some. This is just restarting SharpCap. Once again, we go to RAW 16 from RAW 8. We're going to want to give it probably about a 15-second exposure, just to kind of sight it in, see what it looks like. Get down here to the histogram. Here's the time of the exposure. I just connected my ASCOM mount right here so I can maneuver the telescope if I need to.
Just got another super chat there, Bob.
I sure did, from David Oliver. He's an old supporter of the channel. I appreciate that, man.
£5.
Should you get a tabletop Dobsonian? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. What telescope should he
Dobsonians
get?
are great for visual.
All right, here's the problem that you run into with Dobsonians. Okay? With Dobsonians, you pretty much have to know what you're looking for. If you know the sky really well, a Dobsonian and can actually find your targets by visually,
finished.
that's a good deal. You know, you can do a lot with a Dobsonian. You know what I would get if I were you? There are things called astronomy binoculars, which you can get for around $200, and they're 100mm lenses, and they multiply by 25 times, which is more than Galileo had. You can clearly see the moons of Jupiter with that. You can see the rings of Saturn. You can see the Andromeda galaxy very nicely. See, it's still up here for some reason. Wonder why that is.
I've got to get
Got a
this
rifle scope that'll do all of that.
I've got to get this cataract taken care of first.
Yep. Well,
Yep.
Bode's Galaxy kind of looks like a cataract, man. Doctor told me I might be getting one about 3 years ago, so I probably ought to get that rechecked, don't you think?
Yeah, I just I can't get the surgeon to do it. Starting to affect my golf.
Gotta have your priorities.
Well, I was really fortunate. I never got bit by the golf bug. I fly fish, which is, expensive, time-consuming, and gives you a chance to, look down at the guys that, use worms. But it's still... Okay, so we're getting an image here. You see how we got a little data way down here at the bottom? That is probably Bode's Galaxy right there. Let's do a little longer exposure and see if we can get a little more detail out of that. Let's do a 30-second exposure and see what that looks like. We're also off a little bit here. So that should be dead on Bode's right now. That's where the telescope is looking. We should see the Cigar Galaxy a little bit off to the side. And then there's the Garland Galaxy down here. See? There's another one down there. Give that about 10 more seconds and we're going to see what this looks like. All right. So that's what the raw image looks like. As you can see, we've got a little bit of data in there. That's the Garland right there. That's Bode's, I think. But look at all this. Look at all the light pollution, man. This is the problem that you run into in a full moon. This is look how the galaxy's blending into the green in the background from the light pollution. There's still a little bit of movement of that mount, but it's really surprisingly good. I'm thinking the Cigar Galaxy's right up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a little shorter exposure here. Something that I can get some stars. All right, so what I want to do is I want to come up into this area a little bit more. So I'll use those stars that I can see there to try and get a little movement. Okay, that's the wrong way. See these two stars right here? I'm going to try and move them down to about right here. Keep going the wrong way here. I can rotate the camera on that. to make these controls a little bit more accurate. That's kind of where I want that. Now let's do a 30-second exposure and see what happens. In the meantime, what we're going to do here, so I'm going to go ahead and start guiding right here. See if I can stabilize that image a little bit. So here we're coming up on our image. There it is right there. You see it? There's the cigar galaxy, and there's Bodes right there. Let's get a little better image here. Okay, there's Bodes. There's the cigar galaxy right there. And we're guiding. Let's do a 60-second and see how bad that looks. Now, if you have a focal reducer on this, you'll be able to get all three of these galaxies. The cigar, Bodes, and the Garland galaxy down here, because that'll make the image a little bit less magnified. Get over here and check the chat while we're doing this. Dan looks like he's coming in. I'm sorry I didn't see you there earlier, man.
Less blur on these images, Bob.
Well, what I'm doing right now, is that I'm guiding, and that's helpful. That doesn't sound good.
No, we're in the hospital right now. That's why I mute every now and then.
It puts the mask upon its skin, or it gets phase 1 again. This is the telescope that we're using right now. I was looking for a shot of the binoculars. There, now you see, it's a little bit better with a 60-second image. Here's Bodes, but you're not really seeing the arms on it. You can see the cigar galaxy on edge right there. And the guiding is really helping with these stars. But the color on this is just horrendous.
Hey, why is it so green?
This is the moon. This is the light pollution of the moon. At least that's what I'm seeing right here. So what we're going to try and do, let's see if we can do a capture and see if we can clean this up in Stacker a little bit. So we'll make that a little smaller. We'll make that a little smaller. But that's what we're looking at right there. So here's the cigar, here's Bodes, and then the Garland galaxy's right down here.
Forever with Astro Backyard does a lot of work with filters to take out light pollution.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of good information.
I've watched a lot of his videos. I enjoy them quite a bit. He does a very nice job with them. The only problem that you run into with most of these astronomy programs is they just go ripping through everything. And it's very difficult to follow sometimes. So right here, what I've got is I just maneuvered to where my images, my 1-minute images of the Bodes galaxy are. I'm getting rid of these two files right here, camera settings and histogram. We don't need those. Now we're going to start to monitor this. These are the two images that we just had. And we're going to hit stack. There, isn't that great? It's a black freaking rectangle. So, it looks nice and black here in the back. Remember, our data is on the histogram is down in this area. So, if we bring our midtones down, we should start getting into that data a little bit. So you see how the stars are starting to come out a little? Let's bring it down a little bit more. There's the cigar galaxy. Bodes is over here. Okay, so there's Bodes. There's the cigar galaxy. So we're going to let this stack up a little bit. Right now, we've got 3 minutes worth of images. We have 3 images registered, which meant that it found all of these little stars. And if you check the focus on the stars, not too bad, nice and round. Not too bad. So what it does is it'll mark where all these stars are. And then as it takes additional images, it'll line these stars up with the next image and put them both on, like they're both on transparencies. And as we start building this image up, you know, we get 5, 10, 100 images on here. What'll happen is this background will the granulations in the background will kind of go out. the areas here that are stars and our galaxies and such will become a little bit more distinct. So this is 4 images that we've stacked so far. So we'll let that stack for a couple minutes. How's that sound?
Certainly getting better images in it with the P900.
Well, yeah. But then again, you'd expect that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no blobs.
Yeah, they're in focus for one. That's the benefit of
Imagine that.
having a mask, you know? Now what'd I do? Oh, there we go. So that's 5 images total. Now I'm going to back out here a little bit. We're going to leave it there for a few minutes. We'll get 5 or 10 minutes worth of images. But this is Ursa Major right here. So, you'll recognize the part of Ursa Major that is the Big Dipper. That's the back end of the bear, and this is his tail. Here's his hind legs right here. Let's make this a little smaller so you can see it a little easier. But here's the Big Dipper. That's part of Ursa Major. That's his hind quarters. Here's his nose, or her nose, I should say. Those are the forelegs and the back legs. Now, if you look up here at Ursa Minor, her cub, you got the tail here, and then the body of the bear here. At the very end of the tail is Polaris, the North Star. But down here we have 2 interesting galaxies, and I'm going to try and get a look at them tonight. We're going to come in here a little bit. See, they're in the north right now, and they're just over the horizon. There's actually 3 in here that I like. First one's going to be the Pinwheel Galaxy. And that's what that looks like. But you see, it's a very small galaxy. And it's right near the horizon, so we may have a lot of trouble looking at that. Then there was another one over here I wanted to look at. I think it was that one. M106. There's another little galaxy right there.
You're raking in the cash tonight, Bob.
Ooh, David gave me another 2.
That's $7 from David.
There you go, man. Thank you. Boötes? Boötes is a constellation. It's also called the ice cream cone. It's a summer constellation because it's an ice cream cone. That would make sense, right? Boötes is up high in the sky. Let's see if we can find it. Let's see. Hang on just a second. All right. So we're going to go over here to Ursa Major. And we're going to follow the handle out. And we're going to arc along the handle to Arcturus, which is in the constellation Boötes. Come on. Oh, this isn't helping me. There we go. Let's get rid of the ground. And here is Boötes. And there's Arcturus. And then from Arcturus, you go straight on to Spica, which is in Virgo, right here. These obviously, you know, this is winter now, so the summer constellations you can't see. They're below the horizon at night. They would be up in my sky during the day. But Wolfie should be able to see them if he can see that far north. That's what we're getting. The reason we're not getting a lot of contrast right here between the galaxies in the background is there's just so much moonlight washing over this. I mean, remember, that's what the thing looks like originally. Look at all the brightness in the background here. This is ridiculous, the amount of brightness. But let's go down and see if we can see this pinwheel galaxy. I'm going to go ahead and stop that capture real quick. Yeah, just... Let's go down here to the pinwheel galaxy and see if we can see anything here. The problem that you run into is when you're within about 10 degrees of the horizon, the refraction in the atmosphere is just ridiculous. I'll show you what that looks like. You'll be able to see how much the stars shift just due to refraction. Going to do a 15-second exposure here and see what we can find. Remember all the trouble I used to have with the cameras? That had to do with this program right here, Astrophotography Tool. It was incompatible with the cameras and kept giving me constant errors with them. I don't see it. Let's go ahead and shoot a picture here and see what we can see.
Exposure finished.
We got a little bit of data right here, so let's go see if that shows us anything. Now what we're going to do is we're going to, once again, we're going to put the scope position in. This is where the scope thinks it's pointing. We took a picture, and what it's going to do is it's going to draw triangles between these stars. And it's going to look for that pattern of triangles in the star charts. And if it can figure out, if it can match something to that pattern of triangles, it'll identify exactly what the camera is looking at. And it should do it within about a minute. Now, if I don't get a solution to this within about a minute, what I'll do is I'll take another photograph and I'll try and solve it again. And if that doesn't work, I'll turn Astrophotography Tool, which is what this program is, off. And then I'll restart it and take another picture from scratch. So it didn't solve that.
Exposure started.
So we're starting another picture right now.
Exposure finished.
Once again, solve for where the position this, put it, indicate where the scope thinks it's looking at, which should be relatively close, and then ask it to solve it. Once we do get a solution, and you see the little compass up here, then I can sync that to where right now the telescope thinks it's right here. It may actually be pointing up here. So once I identify what it's pointing at, I'll sync it, and that'll move this marker for the telescope up here, and then I'll just have it come back down here to the galaxy that I want to see. That's the way that works. Two little ways to stretch it. Sometimes one will give a little better than the other. Okay, we're up over a minute now, so this may not be working. That's off. If you try and run the same camera here and in Astrophotography Tool at the same time, you'll tend to get failures. And this is 3.87 is the latest version of Astrophotography Tool.
Connected.
Now we're going to take another picture here, and we're going to see whether or not... Remember, we just had a couple of miscellaneous stars out here. Let's go take another picture and see if we get the same sort of image.
Exposure finished.
That actually looks a little different. Point craft is what they use for plate solving in Astrophotography Tool. So we put in the coordinates of the scope and ask it to solve. And it's already solved it. So you see the little compass, that's north, that points towards the North Star. Now, what I'm going to do is right now, this is where the telescope thinks that it's pointing. Now we're going to go back here, we're going to hit sync. And we're going to see it's actually pointing over here. That's why we don't see anything. We want to look there. So let's move the telescope over. Take a good picture with the imaging software. Remember, we don't want to be on for long exposures. We don't want to be on 8. We want to be on 16. We want to set this up for about a 15-second exposure just to see if we got anything. And we're going to come down here on standby to stretch it if we get any data down here. Let's go see what we get. Again, there's the bar saying how long we have. See, there's just a little toe of data down there. Let's take a little longer exposure and see if we get anything with it. You know, the one thing you learn when you deal with these things is you're not in a hurry to do anything.
It's funny, Bob. There's like a 10-second delay between the Zoom call and the stream on YouTube.
Yep. This is the telescope that we're using. Here is the go-to mount. This is the EON 110mm refractor. That's the 294 ZWO 294 camera. This is the 120, which is on the guide scope. I've got an electric dew heater on it now, which is the only thing that's not in that. All right, now you see we've got a little more data down here now. You see how it came out a little? Let's go see what that shows. Notice we're getting a little cloudiness here. I still don't see it. Let's go back over here, take another picture.
Exposure started.
Maybe the telescope didn't slew. Looking for this big star right here. Let's go see what the next one looks like. It's almost looking like that telescope didn't move. We'll wait for that thing to come up. There it is.
Image solved.
Hit sync. Yeah, the telescope didn't slew over. Let's see if it moved.
Exposure started.
Wolfie's real ain't retentive about always making sure that this
Exposure
goes straight
finished.
up. So that's supposed to be the next photograph right there, and it didn't move. There's a problem. We're going to restart it and try it again. You know, it's below
Camera
freezing
connected.
outside, and the computer's sitting
Telescope
out there.
connected.
That might be an issue.
Exposure started. Exposure finished.
How far below zero is it? I mean, below freezing.
Well, let's go see. It is 31 degrees Fahrenheit, which is half a degree Celsius below freezing.
Your computer should be okay.
Yeah. It's getting cold soaked right now, though. That's for sure. So this is a different image.
Yep.
Image solved.
Well, there it is. It's on the other side. So we moved to here, then we found out where it was actually looking, and it was looking over here. So then what we did was once we synced it up, we commanded it to go to where we wanted to go in the first place.
Exposure started.
So we got 1, 2, 3 little stars right here.
Exposure
Let's make sure
finished.
that moved. Yes, it did. That's probably it right there, but we're going to see. Moving that short of a distance after a sync We should have, it should be right in the center of the frame. Now again, look for the data to come up here when this bar indicates the photo's been taken. You can put a warming blanket over it, but the problem is you can't really put a warming blanket over the cameras. Now the cameras should be cooled, and because you can start getting hot pixels, you can get fuzziness and such if the camera's too hot. But you run into a problem trying to get the weight right. I don't see anything that looks like a spiral galaxy here. It may be too faint for me to see behind all this green. We're certainly not going to see any nebulae or anything. I don't think that's going to be a good target for us tonight, my man. See, we've got all these small little images here. These are all just various astronomical objects up here that may be of interest. Sometimes Stellarium will show you what they are, mostly not. See the Earth rotating? It's kind of cool.
That's not CGI?
Nah, this is just a computer simulator. That's all it is, man.
How about Zeta Reticuli? Have you ever imaged that?
No.
Maybe we
See,
can
here's
see
the cool
Betty
stuff right
Barnhill.
here. And that's in the southeast. I can't really see that very well. Sometimes I can get the moon to some extent, and I can get the planets to some extent. Problem is that Jupiter and Saturn are already way out here in areas that I can't get to by the time everything's all set up.
Yeah, we can usually get Saturn here on the
Yeah, I
East
mean, I can
Coast.
see it. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
Come
I'd
on.
have to move my telescope location to be able to get Jupiter and Saturn this time of year.
See, they're already below the horizon. See, here's what they're talking about with a conjunction. You see how close they are? See, here's our lens, or here's our camera, the ZWO-294, the Orion telescope. That's what we should be able to see with this telescope. So here's Jupiter and the moons. Where's Saturn? See, there's Saturn right there. It's just, there's no way I could get them both in one image right now. Let's see where that would be. Now look at that on the 17th. That's what they're talking about with the conjunction. I think the conjunction's on the 21st. Look at that. That's what we'll be able to see towards the end of the month. There's both of them in the same image.
You're going to do that live?
I know I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it live for a couple of, just logistical reasons. I've got 100 feet of internet cable. I have to be at least 200 feet away from the house in order to be able to see them.
Okay.
Which means that I don't have enough cable, and my Wi-Fi won't reach that far.
Yeah.
So what I may do is I may go take a video of it and then just come back in and present it. But that's what we're dealing with. That's what they're talking about when you see the conjunction.
That'll be fairly low on the horizon.
Well, let's see where it is. I don't think anybody else has tried to get into this Zoom meeting. No.
Daniel tried to get back in, but he was blocked. You'd have to send him another link.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, man.
That's what happened to me the last time. It's like once you get out, you can't get back in.
Yep.
With the same link.
Well, I admitted him in, but he never came in. I think he left just as I did it. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here. I think it's just too bright for that really dim object.
Some of the smaller galaxies sometimes come in when the larger diffuse ones are too dim.
I don't think there's anything over here. See, look how low this is to the horizon. That's just really not that far off the horizon. There's just too much garbage right there for us to see.
The actual horizon or the geometric horizon?
Yes. Absolutely. I did a whole video on that today.
I commented on one of.
Go ahead.
I commented on one of Nathan Oakley's videos.
Yeah.
And he told me I was dumb, so I wear that as a badge of honor. I'm gonna have a T-shirt printed up. He's a joy.
Well, I hope to be him when I grow up, you know?
Yeah. Could be worse. You could be Nathan Thompson.
Well, at least I'd always have a place to stay.
Yeah, with 8 shower heads, too.
That's right.
And then you have the duck suit, too, so you're good. Oh my God, I can't believe these people. Jeez. My wife yells at me for watching that stuff.
And you blame her? Why?
I don't, but it's entertainment. It's like watching, it's like Gaper Block,
Well, my mouse is starting to fail here. That's embarrassing.
Wireless.
I never got a chance to tell you how impressed I was on your gyro video.
Oh, thank you.
That mechanical gyro compass, that was one of the better explanations I've seen.
I took this the other day, a couple of weeks ago. I gotta put in.
You did a really good job too, Bob, on the Venus and the retrograde motion of Mars as well.
Let me get this minimized so you can see my picture of Orion, and while you just gaze in appreciation at that, I'm gonna go get some more batteries for this thing. God, I can't keep enough of a battery on that to knock it down here real quick. Come on. Well, guys, give me a minute. I'm going to go put some batteries in this. I can't seem to get it to work.
Well, Joe, how are the skies in your location?
Last time I was out around 6 o'clock, there were some stars visible, but it was kind of cloudy. It's not a clear night.
Well, I think it's clear here, but you can't see stars. I'm in the middle of Houston at the moment.
We can see some stars, but not a lot. Not like if you can. Years ago, we took a trip to the Galapagos Islands, and that's 600 miles off the coast of Ecuador. And
we've done some survey work.
David gave me another super chat. Thank you again, man. You're supporting me.
David's the man.
David is the man.
And I had the head naturalist on this. Was a small ship, held about 90 people, and he was an astronomy buff like I am. So we would have him turn all the lights off on the ship, and we'd sit up on the top.
That's awesome.
And you could see everything. I mean, the whole arm of the Milky Way. It was breathtaking. Eventually, people were like, "What are you doing up there?" And I got about 10 or 15 people come up. And I said, just lay on this chair and just
let your eyes adjust.
Yeah, and they would go, "Oh my God!" Then one night we had a meteor shower, and they were just zooming all over the place. It was breathtaking. I used to wonder when I was a kid, why they, with all the stuff with constellations, until you go out and you see them, and how bright they are with no light pollution. they draw, the constellations draw attention to themselves because they're so bright compared to the other stars when there's no light in the sky. It's just, I love it.
It's actually kind of easy to get lost in the sky whenever you're in a really dark area, because there's so many more stars, and there's not this threshold where you can't see stars below it, you know. So when you get used to seeing it in a kind of somewhat light polluted area, the stars that you get used to are the brightest stars. But you go to these really dark areas, and there's just stars everywhere you look. So there's no dark spots between the constellations. You know, it's easy to get lost in a really dark sky.
It's you know, you don't, you know, most people would have no clue because they're so, you know, you grow up with nothing but light pollution. If you live anywhere near it,
Right.
A decent sized town, it's amazing how much of it is washed out by all the light pollution.
That's right.
Well, you can see it on this one right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing's doing squirrely things
The
now.
fact that you're able to get anything
Yeah, it's going to have to be restarted. Give me a second. I'm trying to get this other computer working and it's just not. I'm going to restart it real quick and then restart the screen. Restart the show.
So that trip to the Galapagos was just a vacation?
Yeah, we took our, my kids were still young, fairly young. That was a great trip. My wife and I travel a lot. Well, we did. I was telling Bob a while back, I watched one of his videos when we were in Antarctica in December.
Okay, well, guys, enjoy my shot of the Orion Nebula here for a minute. I'm restarting the telescope computer. It'll just take me a moment to get everything back together.
That was our 7th continent.
I'll be right back.
We've been. The only place I haven't been that I want to go to is China.
Wow.
And space. I'd like to get up to space. I've been to 70,000 feet. A friend of mine, when I was in law school, was in the Air Force. He was I guess ROTC, and there's an Air Force base that was used to be near here, and he said, "Hey, you want to go up?" And I said, "Sure." So we went up. It's like scared the hell out of me. We were so high.
That's awesome.
Had to use, had to wear oxygen and everything else, and you're that high, and it's dark above you. Sky's black, and then you can see the curve of the Earth as clear as day.
Right.
You have a 360 field of view, and everywhere you look, it's these idiots that say you can't see the curve at that height. They're nuts. They've never been up that high.
They've never been up there.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you can see the curve at 45,000 feet if you sit in the cockpit of a plane.
Yeah, if you have a wide field of view.
Yeah. You can't see it out of the window, a little window on the side, but you can see it out of the cockpit. Yeah. So, I love that. I'd go to the, if I had stupid money, if I had 20 million I could find in the cushions, I'd pay the Russians to send me up in one of those Soyuz things to the ISS. But I don't have stupid money.
But you can wait a little while. You might be able to do it cheaper with the SpaceX. Yeah.
Or if Virgin, if Richard Branson ever gets his act together. I mean, they were talking about flights for like
Is that
120,000.
going to be a suborbital?
Yeah, but it's,
but he's staying
that's John Glenn.
suborbital, right?
Yeah, but that's 120 grand is a lot less than what SpaceX.
Oh, a
is
lot
gonna
better than
charge.
20 million.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, suborbital was good enough.
But then
for John
again,
Glenn.
oh yeah. But then again, spending 15 minutes there versus spending up 2 weeks there is a big difference too.
Oh yeah, no question. No question. Yeah, these guys, they just, like, we never went to the moon, and it's like, when my kids were young, people today think they have no clue what it was like. I mean, I'm old enough. I'm 62. I lived all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when my kids would ask me, Dad, what's your...
Well, guys, we may be in luck tonight.
All right.
What we're lucky about.
Well, hey, if I'm going to get lucky tonight, I better go upstairs.
I don't think that's happening for me.
But when my kids were young, they used to say, Dad, what were your favorite DVDs as a kid? It's like, really? We had like 5 TV channels. That was it.
Oh yeah.
Gents, we may be in luck tonight. I just went outside and had a look.
Yeah, we had 3.
I'm thinking that we might be able to get a shot of Orion here. It'll be through the trees, so it won't be perfect. Nice. But you see, with this one here, I've got the Orion Nebula and I've got the Running Man Nebula right here.
Yeah, that's one of the easiest and hardest nebulas to catch.
That's five stacked images right there, and it's almost got like a 3-dimensional quality to it, and that's without any significant processing.
It's beautiful.
Right. I mean, that was my first attempt to take a shot of the Orion Nebula.
And even the stars, too, around it are all pretty sharp.
I'm just waiting for the other computer to boot up.
It's funny.
You get a lot of contrast on those lower.
We still got quite a. We've got a dozen people watching this right now, and we're not even doing anything.
We're supplying them with quality entertainment.
It's fun stuff. Eventually, I'll have this set up so that people can actually take control of the telescope.
There's a guy who does that. There's a guy, Michael D'Antonio. I think he allows people to do that.
Yeah. Well, they can't really damage it.
No, but he's got one of those. He built one of those observatories on his property. I think he's up in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And he does model building for the U.S. government, for the U.S. military, and he's a photo analysis for the UFO group, and he's got a pretty nice system.
He's building the 30 caliber iPod, right?
Wow.
Yeah, he's he's an interesting character. I've met him he came and gave a lecture. We have a local UFO group that gives lectures where they did before COVID at the local library here. And they bring, I met Travis Walton there a couple times. I go for the entertainment. I don't go for the lectures. I go for the people who show up.
It's kind of why I'm in Flat Earth.
Mm-hmm. the UFO people are better, Bob.
Maybe I ought to have a look at that because I've always been interested in photo analysis and such.
Yeah, he basically debunks everything.
Yeah.
People, it's like, because, people don't realize how crappy the sensors are on, especially on consumer grade camcorders. I mean, it's, they're horrible. Like they were saying for years that they discovered flying rods. What are these things? They're bugs.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's just ridiculous.
That's just settings on the sensors, though. That's shutter speed.
I'm trying to log back onto the telescope computer right now, and it's not letting me on.
Well,
I can see that it's on out there.
Yeah, Travis
Let's see if
Walt
I can do it here.
I was there one night for this guy that does alien abduction stuff, David Jacobs, and he's giving the lecture, and they do a question and answer afterwards. And some lady asked the question, and he said to her, I'll never forget it. He said, "Lady, I'm talking about alien abductions, and you're out of your mind." And I just laughed.
Wow.
Hey, it's free, So it was interesting. Yeah, there's a bunch of crazy people that show up. I don't believe anything.
Well, I'm going to go out and check that computer because it seems to be on, but for some... Yeah, if it's not connecting, let me try that.
Reboot that one.
I just did.
Oh.
And for some reason, and it's hardwired in.
Wow.
No, wait a minute. It's not. Maybe that's what I need to do. Let me go check it.
Yeah, if you ever get to say that.
Well, I was going to say that I was involved in some of the work we've done surveying the Pacific Ocean, and one of our jobs finished at the Galapagos Islands. Pretty impressive. We were surveying the smoker vents in the Pacific Ocean.
Oh yeah, sure.
And that was back in the early 90s.
Well, if you ever get to go to the islands, and I don't think it's as easy to get to anymore because it was getting a little too much. But it's like being on the planet before there were people. So the birds, they just land on your shoulder. It's like nothing. They're not. It's here. You open the door and everything scatters. There, they don't care.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's a beautiful place.
They don't know any better.
No. Although I must say, the most beautiful place.
I think it was a problem with the internet on their end.
Okay. Who do you have as a provider, Bob?
All right, now she's working.
If you can ever get to Antarctica, go. It's the most beautiful place we've ever seen.
I haven't been quite that far south. I guess the farthest south I've been is Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Okay. The only problem with getting to Antarctica is the Drake Passage.
Oh, you went by boat?
Yeah, we went from we took the boat from Ushuaia down at the tip of South America in Argentina, and you either get the Drake Shake or the Drake Lake. We got the Drake Shake.
Oh, there you go.
25-foot swells. I don't get seasick.
Well,
I don't get seasick, but everybody else on the ship was green.
There's certain conditions that I found that I can get seasick from. Not every condition. There's some that it'll happen.
Oh, that's one problem that I'm going to have right now. I got to go park it real quick. Hang on.
We did have we sent a couple of my buddies down to Antarctica to do some testing on some GPS differential systems that we were developing, and we sent he went around on Australia, South America, and then Antarctica to do all the testing on the systems.
It's.
He came back with quite a few beautiful photos.
Yeah, I got about 1,000 pictures, but it just
when you set this thing up, it's got to be. It has to have a starting position that matches. Basically, it's pointing towards the North Celestial Pole.
Yeah, it's got to default
right,
to
so
its
that's
home.
Connected. Yeah, nothing happens quick in astronomy. You got to wait for these things to boot up. So again, this is ASCOM. This is the program that makes the telescope talk to the computer. This, of course, is Stellarium.
Right.
Stellarium will link into the mount down here in telescope control as soon as you connect it. What it'll do is it'll think that the telescope's sitting right there. So when you restart it, that's where the telescope actually has to be. So what we're going to do let's go see where we are here.
You running Windows, Bob, or Linux?
This is Windows. Let's go over to the Pleiades for a minute. I think we should be able to see that.
Yeah, there's some crackpot that's been claiming for 40 years that the aliens from the Pleiades visit him. What's that guy's name? Can't think of his name. So maybe we'll see the mothership.
Hey, we can try.
The Pleiades. That's a large area.
Well, when you're making claims, it's best to be as vague as possible. So they can't pin you down.
Yes, so.
I see they changed the estimate for how many galaxies there are. I mean, there's like what, trillions of them?
They
yeah,
also
from what
changed
an enormously large number to an enormously large number raised to the power of enormous.
Yeah, it's amazing. But people think we're special here.
Yeah.
The only place where there's
Beetlejuice.
Well, you know, that one galaxy that we looked at, Andromeda, has got something like, is it 200 million or 1 trillion stars in it? I think it's 1 trillion stars in it.
Yeah, it's much larger than the Milky Way,
Yeah.
and it's heading this way. So watch out.
Yeah. And the other one,
Actually, there was
is
some new
Triangularum.
measurements done. The Milky Way and Andromeda are closer in size than they originally thought. Also,
Oh yeah.
yeah. If you watch What the Math with Anton,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I watched that.
he goes over some of the yeah, he goes over a lot of latest scientific discoveries.
Yeah, so you're a wonderful person too then.
I'm a wonderful person, just like everybody else on this channel.
we're just kind of slewing over towards the Pleiades right now. So you see, you can tell the thing's slewing right up here. That means that the scope mount's moving. Once it gets there, it's going to want to settle for a minute. So it's settling now. When the C comes up, it's pretty much locked on the Pleiades, or in that general area. We'll take a picture. So now the C's up. Let's take a quick picture and see if we can see anything here. That's probably one of the Pleiades right there. We'll go to point craft. We'll indicate where the scope thinks it's pointing. And we'll ask it to solve to find out where it actually is pointing. So that's where it thinks it's pointing right there. Pleiades is part of the constellation Taurus, one of the zodiacal constellations, of course. Now, to give you an idea, one of the problems that we run into is this. That's what we can take with our setup right now. That doesn't seem to want to solve. Let's just restart this little thing here real quick. See if we can get a solution for this plate solve here. This should solve within about 10 or 15 seconds. If it hasn't solved by the end of a minute, something's wrong with it. I may have tried to take it too far and it's out of its range.
How long of exposure did you do, Bob?
Eight seconds.
Could be plenty.
You know, I normally shoot 4, but I shot a little bit extra tonight because it's so bright out.
I usually do 2 or 4, and if I don't catch it on there, I'll bump it up to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Normally it'll solve after I get it at 10. Just got to get the stars above the noise level.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been a minute and a half and it's still not doing it. That's
Yeah,
rather strange.
In the wrong area of the sky.
Yep. I probably tried to go too far. Let's get something that's a little closer. See if we can get a little bit closer to the pole. Let me just make sure that's, well, I guess I'll just take a picture. If it's blocked by something, we'll know it. Ooh, that's a nice looking field. There's a lot of cool stuff right there. We should be able to solve for that. This, yeah, like I said, this is my next step. I want to get a focuser so that I can tweak the focus from in here too without having to run outside all the time.
It's one of my next steps. I might have overloaded it, so I got it all apart, rebuilding it. But
Okay, we
a new
found it.
focuser or a new mount would be really nice.
All right, so we know where it is right now. So now it thinks it's over in the Pleiades again.
7 sisters.
The 7 sisters being chased by Orion the Hunter. That's a little blurry. Wolfie's real anal retentive about making sure that this is always north. Okay. I'm a little happier with that.
I wonder how far he can see north from Perth.
Well, Perth and Sydney are both about... It's already solved. Perth and Sydney are both about 33 to 35 degrees south. And he can probably see everything up to about 35 or 40 degrees declination from the North Celestial Pole. So however far he is below the equator, well, excuse me, I'm sorry. No, that's right. However far he is below the equator, he'll need to go below the North Celestial Pole, and that would be about as far down to the horizon as he could get. Yeah, it's right in the middle of the Pleiades.
Think you'll get some nebulosity? Or is
No.
it too bright?
I think it's way too bright, but you know, let's give it a try. Let's go over here to SharpCap real quick. You should see some fuzziness from the clouds between us and the Pleiades. They're not actually in the Pleiades, they're between the Pleiades and us. But let's go see if we can get anything at all. Just because we happen to be there, you know? This may be unwise, but we'll see.
It's amazing how much stuff you can see on the dome.
Mm-hmm.
Never been cleaned either.
I hate to tell
Here are
these.
the Pleiades right here through the guide scope. And it's guiding. So it may be stable enough to do this. We shall see. Here are the Pleiades.
Oh yeah.
See?
Nice.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Well, let's go see what we're looking at here. See these two here? That one? And this triangle right here?
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a pretty good shot.
Well, got to figure out what the orientation would be. That's these two right here. I think. Kind of hard to tell. You know, there is a way to tell.
One, 2. Yeah, looks like, yeah. You've got it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the Pleiades.
No, I can match up the stars.
You can?
Yeah.
There is a way to get this orientation
Well, you see
sent
that
over to Stellarium.
Well, you see where it looks like a worm.
What, on this?
No, on the Stellarium. Yeah, I can match all the stars. Match. They're just there aren't as many of them. Some of them you can't see, but
here's the nebulosity that they're talking about. This isn't true nebulosity. It's just a gas cloud between us and the stars. They're not actually located at the Pleiades. So basically, that's upside down is what it is. We're looking at it. We're looking at it from this direction right here. And actually, that's the north, and that would be the north there. So it's rotated.
You wouldn't happen to know what class stars they are, do you?
No. Not even remotely. Let's see if this is far enough out from the tree to be able to see.
It's amazing. It's almost 12:30, and we have 13 people watching.
Yep. Probably the same 13 that have been watching the whole time.
Yeah, people don't have seen anything better to do.
Well, it's either this or go to bed.
That's going the wrong way.
I'm actually processing my Mars images.
When do you think Eon's going to get to Mars?
No idea. When there's enough money to do it.
I wouldn't put it past them.
See, we'll get this back up to the North Pole, to the North Celestial Pole, and then we'll slew to Orion from the North Celestial Pole. Well, that doesn't sound good. This thing's grinding out here. Hang on.
I'm looking forward to seeing that first test flight of the Starship.
Yeah, that's going to be something to see. That's impressive.
Looks like something right out of a comic book from the 50s.
It does. To develop those brand new engines like that.
Yeah, I know. You know, if Elon says he's going to be on Mars in 3 weeks, I'll believe him.
I believe he'll get there. His timelines are never accurate, but he always accomplishes what he says he's going to do.
His timelines are getting better.
He was probably trying to do Meridian Flip or something or other. Oh. So. Let's go see where we are here.
You can pinch it where they're a little.
Okay, so we're going to unpark it there. That's where it thinks it is. Let's kind of get it down in this general direction, see what happens. It's not moving. Let's go down here. Got one of those little annoyances here. Hang on. Come on.
Just imagine how many planets are around each of those stars. Just imagine how many planets are around each of those stars.
Indeed. You know, when I look at Andromeda, I always think that there's probably 100 civilizations looking back at me, and they all think they're alone too.
Probably.
Well, in a way, they are. Even if it's at the same time, you'd never see.
I think intelligent life is more common than we think it is.
Oh, I definitely do.
There's more intelligent life on the planet Earth than we think.
I don't know. You've been on the internet lately?
Well, yeah, besides, I'm not talking about humanity. I'm talking about other animals.
See, there's an enormous tree in this area here, but with the leaves off of it, we might be able to sneak a shot. We got a little window right here to look at this.
Ray S in the chat, Bob, thinks you should try the Linux version of Stellarium.
Unfortunately, I don't know anything at all about Linux.
I don't either. I use Mac.
I do too. That's what I prefer. So you see, I went ahead and took that picture. These are still the Pleiades, and I know the scope's moved. So we'll restart this. Maybe I'll get together with Ray one day and he can teach me how to use Linux. Let's go see where we're looking. Let's see if that tree's kind of interfering too much.
Actually, have you thought about using Sky Safari? I find it to be a little easier to use than that's what I control my mount with.
We do.
Let's go see if we can solve for him. I like it when it solves in 6 or 8 seconds. There's a big old star sitting right there.
Yeah, there's some crazy people on the internet.
You know what I'm thinking happened here is I probably tried to go too far with this. Go about halfway back. Boy, it's certainly taken a roundabout trip back, isn't it? So that came all the way down from here. It went all the way out there and then came back that way instead of just going like that.
It's got a mind of its own.
Yeah, it does tend to go the more difficult route, that's for sure.
Must be a male.
Yep.
Probably trying to keep the cables from getting tangled up.
Oh, I think it went out of its way to do that.
It's not the Great Circle route.
Mm-hmm. If it doesn't solve here, we'll go a little closer to the pole and try it again.
Just saw Helen Mirren on the tube here.
Hmm?
You just saw Helen Mirren on the tube. Got the TV on in the background here. I was on a plane ride from LA to Australia. She was sitting next to me.
I always wanted to have a plane ride and have Tom Hanks sit down next to me.
I'd rather have Helen.
I think he'd be an interesting guy to share a flight with, you know?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Helen's easier on the eyes, though.
That's true.
And she was really, really we had a nice chat. She was very nice.
All right, that's solved. So now we know where we are.
It always helps.
Yeah. You know, it's the first one that's always the most difficult, it seems. You know, I used to make stupid mistakes like I don't want to go there. That's the moon. I used to make stupid mistakes like solving right at the pole and then trying to locate there. If you go 20 or 30 degrees off the pole and solve, you can generally find where you are. But I'm all the way down here at the horizon, and I think I just bit off more than I could get. See, it's going way out here again. Come on, where are you? What's it doing back up here? For some reason, it thinks it's back in the park position.
Maybe one night you'll discover your own star. We can call it the Bob star.
Oh, hell, I can't even figure out what I'm looking at now. I think this is probably kind of going downhill right now. We're going to give this one last try.
Well, it's getting late. Maybe the telescope's had enough.
I think it does. I think it gets tired, you know? See, I'm trying to move this, and it's not doing anything. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get to it tonight.
Yeah, astrophotography is a troubleshooting hobby.
Yeah, it's getting... Let's go ahead and shut that down. Well, guys, that was a lot of fun tonight. I appreciate everybody stopping down or stopping by and checking it out.
It's always fun, Bob.
You know, now that the telescope's working correctly and the cameras are working and we're getting plate solving and everything, that's what we need to do to make this fun. You know, when I first started this, I had problems with the cameras. They wouldn't read and do plate solving and things like that, and that just made it a pain. But now that everything works pretty well, we've been doing this for a couple of hours without any problems. I think, you know, after a few hours, it just, the computers get cold, the cameras get cold. Yeah, I think it just has enough. And, you know, quite frankly, it's getting late, and it's time for us to hit the sack. The fire's out. Time to bring the old telescope in and call it a night, ladies and gents. Thank you again for stopping by. Make sure you hit that like and the super chats and subscribe to my channel if you want. This is my Serious Science channel. Serious Science channel. And I'd like to see some support for it if you guys could. So if you're not already subscribed to this and Bob the Science Guy, go hit a like and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon. Have yourself a great night, folks. Thanks again.
You
Let's
too, Bob.
make sure that we got everything here.
Good night.
Good luck with your son, Robert.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's about it. Looks like everybody's all done here. Thank you all for stopping by. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream now. Have a good night, everybody.